Hello and welcome to the Mum's Guide to Money. This is the first of 30 days for planning and budgeting for your maternity leave. My name is Charlene Smith and I'm the author of the Mum's Guide to Money. Having a baby and perhaps you're not quite clear on what the rules around maternity leave and maternity pay in the UK are, you're in the right place. You might also be expecting a baby and you're completely confused as to costs, what the rules are and what the different things are you need to be worried about. Perhaps you're already on maternity leave and you're not quite sure where you stand. So today I'm going to be covering one of many tips over the next month, so come back each day for one of my top tips. So what I'm covering today is around maternity leave and maternity pay. So I'm going to cover why they're not the same thing and what each of those mean. So I'm Charlene Smith. I'm a mummy of 3, I'm a missus, I'm an author, blogger and I'm an accountant by profession. So I've seen it all when it comes to maternity leave money matters, having been through it twice myself, and had 2 very different experiences when it comes to maternity leave and maternity pay. I said about writing the Mum's Guide to Money last summer. Like everybody, got bored of trying to run couch to 5k and I don't like banana bread, so I needed something to do with my spare time rather than sitting around looking through social media. So I started to write my blog, which is naturally where my book came from. And my number one aim is to help mums in the UK financially plan and prepare for maternity leave. Because we all know that babies cost a hell of a lot of money. And my book is all about stepping you through the process of getting your budget together, how much money you need to save for maternity leave, and all of those other things you need to think about to make sure you're not worrying about money when you should be, having a good time on maternity leave and enjoying your new baby. So what is maternity leave and what does it mean for us mums here in the UK? So it's important to always remember that maternity leave is a legally protected concept. It's the time that you're allowed to have away from work following the birth of a baby. There's obviously special rules around adoption, which I'll cover in a separate tip, but if your maternity leave is covered from the birth of a baby perspective. So in the UK it lasts for up to 52 weeks and every woman is entitled to maternity leave. There's no qualifying period. It doesn't matter whether you're being employed for an hour or 10 years, you still qualify for maternity leave. So maternity leave is divided up into 2 different time periods. So the first 26 weeks is what we call ordinary maternity leave. And it's really important that you get your head around the 2 different talk about, because it offers you protection around the right to return to your job. So if you really love what you do and really concerned about whether or not you can come back to that job, if you only take ordinary maternity leave, so 26 weeks, you have every right to go back to the job the maternity leave. Now personally, my first time around, this is what I did. So I only took ordinary maternity leave because I really wanted to sort of guarantee I had the same job to go back to, and it also gave me the protection of non-pay related rights. So I still got a bonus, didn't lose my rights to private health insurance and other things that were there at the time. By comparison, we have additional maternity leave, so that starts on the very next day that ordinary maternity leave ends. Again, really important that you understand this, because you're giving up to the same job if you take additional maternity leave. Now that's not saying that you don't have a job to go back to, but they only have to offer you a similar job. So similar in terms of pay, similar in terms of seniority. So they can't pay you the same but expect you to do the work of someone not at the same sort of qualifications and responsibility as you. So it's important that we always remember that maternity leave is not the same as maternity pay. So maternity leave, like I said earlier, there's no qualification period and every woman is entitled to maternity leave. Maternity pay, on the other hand, is the amount of money that you're entitled to while you were on that maternity leave. So what does it mean for us here in the UK? So, like I said, it's the amount of money, and it's your employer who pays that, because as the name suggests, maternity pay is for people, for women who are employed, and the employer would pay that maternity pay through their normal payroll cycle, so monthly, weekly, however that happens where you work. So there is a minimum qualifying period for maternity pay, so you can't sort of start a new job and then be pregnant and expect to get sort of your full entitlement to maternity pay. You do need to have been employed there for 26 continuous weeks. So in some people's mind, they sort of think, oh, 6 months, but just make sure with everything, with maternity, you're always counting in weeks. And it's it's 26 weeks before your due date. So important that you do go back and take the time to check those calculations. I did work with somebody once who was very worried that they were going to miss out on maternity pay because they hadn't been employed for 6 months, but when we broke it down into weeks, she found out she was okay. Now, if you aren't entitled to maternity pay, don't worry. There are other provisions out there for you, which I'll a future tip, but in the meantime you can research maternity allowance, which would be probably what you'd be entitled to. So the all-important how much is it question. So maternity pay, so the minimum amount you would get is called statutory maternity pay. So if you qualify, your employer must pay you this. There's no sort of ifs, buts and maybes. They don't get a choice, they have to pay this. It's covered by law. And at the end of the day, the government reimburses them for a lot of it anyway. So if they're being a bit funny with you, being awkward, and you feel like you're getting sort of the runaround from them, and that it's not actually coming out of their bank at the end of the day, they do claim it back from the government. So if you want to put in the comments how much you think you might be entitled to, have you looked into seeing if it's just statutory maternity pay that you'd be getting from your employer. Or perhaps you're one of the fortunate ones who might work in sort of a local authority position, or in an ex-government organisation where they might have sort of enhanced or a contractual maternity pay. The employer will pay over and above the statutory maternity rate, and it'll be wrapped up into your kind of overall benefits package. So do take the time to sort of fish through all of your terms and conditions and your policies at work, because quite often lots of women don't realise this, and when they start to look through all the HR documents, they suddenly discover the joy that additional maternity pay can bring them. But just do be wary and check terms and conditions around that, and make sure that obviously, if you do get an enhanced maternity pay, that it probably ties you to coming back to work for a certain amount of time. So do make sure that you've got all of that covered from a legal standpoint. Okay, so if you enjoyed tonight's tip, I'm going to be bringing you a new tip every day for the next 30 days. In the meantime, you can obviously grab my book off Amazon. Now, I know lots of people go, oh, but it's Amazon, don't want to buy from Amazon. I basically sell via Amazon because it's easier and more convenient for you, and it's cheaper. So obviously you can get my book on Kindle, and if I was selling to you direct, I wouldn't be able to do that. And also, you don't have my book that's been stashed away in my garage, rather than stored properly in a book warehouse. So obviously they print the copies nice and fresh for you, and get them out to you much quicker and much cheaper than anything I could ever do. I will put a link in the comments if you're interested in ordering my book. But it's not just a book on its own, so I've got some online content as well. So the book obviously steps you through, and I've got a copy here, so it is an actual real thing. So it steps you through sort of a 10 gathering all of your papers together, all of your HR policies and everything you need to look for to get your maternity leave sort of money plan together. So budgeting, how much do you need to save, how long can you afford to have off, should you go back to work, what do you need to buy, how do you buy it on a how much money should you spend, what should your priorities be, and all of those sorts of questions. So all the questions I had when I was, a first-time mum and a second-time mum, because it was different for me the second time round. A long time period had elapsed, and also I was having twins. So, as you can imagine, the money pressures are quite tough when it comes to buying two of everything. So the book takes you through all of those sorts of things, and it steps you out one chapter at a time, nice and easy. It's fairly easy going. I do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of the maths. So you just have to sort of find the information, and it all sort of comes together in the end. So in addition, some online content that goes with the book. So there's sort of a planner that goes with it that you can download. Now that's free, and the reason I've done that is because the other way around to my book, if I sold that via Amazon, it'd probably be quite expensive, because to get something nice and colourful printed is quite an expensive thing to do. So I make that material available for free on my website. It does help you if you buy the book, because the book and the planner go hand in hand. So there's different steps and activities for you to do to try and figure out what your budget is. So obviously the plan is available on the website. Download it, and you can either print it if you want to, or just look at it on the screen. It's entirely up to you. And then obviously within the planner, there's also a calculator. So it's a budget calculator, and it steps you again step by step. Go and gather the various bits of information that you to get together your sort of maternity leave budget and savings plan, so that you can start getting your money sorted out, ready for maternity leave. So thanks for listening. This is the first of 30 tips I'm going to be giving you over the next month in terms of planning and financially preparing for maternity leave. In the meantime, you can find me on all the usual social media places. So I'm normally on Instagram quite regularly at Mum's Guide to Money, or on my Facebook page, which obviously you're on now, so you know where that is. Obviously find me on my website, which is mumsguidetomoney.com, and you can find all the information about my book and everything that I do. And in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow with more tips on financially planning and preparing for maternity leave.